What is up, guys? Welcome to part 13 of our WordPress tutorial for beginners series. In this video, we're just going to focus on WordFence security. We're going to actually configure it real quick, and it should be pretty quick and painless process. A lot of it comes pre-configured, and a lot of it auto-detects what your site has and what server you're set up and all that, so it's going to do a lot of work for you. But we're going to start here by just going to configuring. And by the way, before you go to configure, when you first install WordFence, it's going to ask you to put in the email. It wants to send you stuff to your email, and it kind of forces it on you. And so just put in whatever email you want. Usually I just do whatever email I create for the site. So I'll create like an admin at whatever site it is, and then I'll just send everything there. And I'm going to configure an email later in the series as well, so you'll be able to see that. So first thing is we're going to hear, it's going to have two things for you, which is enabling auto updates and clicking to configure the plugin. These little messages are going to follow you all over your site until you do them. So the first thing is automatically updating. We're going to hit yes to this, and what that's going to do is it's going to make the plugin auto update itself when it detects new versions, so it'll take care of a security vulnerability for you. The second thing is, and it only updates itself, by the way, not all the other plugins. And the other thing is, it wants you to click here to configure your firewall for your site. What it's going to try to get you to do, I'm pretty sure, is download your htaccess. Yeah, it wants you to download your original htaccess as a backup. And remember that htaccess being located in your new site, just your core directory. This is the current htaccess that you have, and you could actually just copy it from here since you're already there, or you can do it like this, and it's going to give it to you as a downloadable file. So instead of doing it that way, I'm actually just going to go like this. Let me show you another way to do it. So we're going to grab the htaccess just by clicking it, Control-C, click off, Control-V. It's going to create a copy of htaccess. And we can just rename this to, yeah, copy.htaccess is fine, even the way it originally had it, in fact. So that's just our backup of our original now, and so now this doesn't really matter to us. So now we can hit continue. And here it selected our server configuration based on what it found, which is correct, by the way, for our local host. So now it's going to do some stuff on its own. All right. So now it's going to auto-optimize your htaccess file. And the htaccess file handles a lot of stuff for requests into your website and all that for you, so that's good. So now this message should disappear, and we're going to get this screen. And this is the firewall version of our WordFence security plugin. We're actually just going to head up into the dashboard, I believe, just to get a quick overview of the dashboard. So right now it's saying it'll give you any notifications of found issues, and it actually scans your site. So let's see what it came up with. I think it's going to say a directory that it couldn't scan. Let's see. Yeah, skipped path. So I'm not really too worried about that, but as you can see, look at everything it's doing. It has scanned all of our post comments and files, our themes and plugins, our users, our URLs, and all that stuff. It's went through and checked out everything. And another thing is you can start a new scan, and you can have it rescan as much or as often as you'd like. So let's just go back to, let's head back into the firewall. This is really where we want to get started here. So in the firewall, there's a bunch of stuff that's upgrading to the premium, but at this time we're just going to do everything that we can do without that. So as you can see, we have rate limiting, blocking. These are the two things we're mostly going to focus on. If we start with our brute force protection, this is actually for your password screen for your login, and this is when I was talking in the last video about login failures. Actually, we're on our firewall options page. If you scroll down, they have all these little dropouts for each thing. So we're just going to start with our brute force protection, and we want that on. And here's what it's going to ask you: lock out after how many login failures. This is how many times a user has attempted to log in, and then it's going to lock them out, their IP. So you can set this as much as you'd like or as little. I think I'm going to drop this down personally to 7. Why 7? Because I just chose 7. It could be anything you want, but I'm going to go with 7. Somebody tries 7 attempts and they can't get it, I'm locking them out. And how many forgot password attempts? These are people who are saying they forgot the password, clicking that little link. I'm going to lock that out after 7 as well. Lucky number 7's all the way. And count failures over what period of time. Now we're not going to set this as 7, but failures over what period of time. So right now it's saying if they failed 7 times in a 4-hour window, lock them out. I'm going to say if they failed 7 times in a, oh, there's no 7. Oh, let's just go for 6. So in a 6-hour window, if they've tried 7 login attempts and they failed consistently 7 times in a row, then it's going to lock them out. An amount of time the user is locked out. Let's lock out that user for 1 day. So that's exactly how we set this up. If they've tried to log in 7 times within a 6-hour window and failed, it's going to lock them out for 24 hours. Okay? So immediately lock out invalid usernames. You could do this, but I'm going to leave it disabled for the moment. Immediately block the IP of user trying to assign as these names. This is if you have any specific usernames inside or any users created in your WordPress under your settings and your users. I'm sorry, not your settings, just under your users. If you've created like other admins or something, and anytime anybody tries to access those, it immediately locks them out for trying to log in under it. So you want to leave this by default. It's just preventing the use of passwords leaked in data breaches, which is pretty cool. Enforcing strong passwords, I suggest you leave that on. It forces everybody who signs up to have a strong password. Don't let WordPress reveal valid users and login errors. Yeah, this is something pretty interesting about WordPress. When somebody puts in a user and the user's correct but the password's wrong, the login screen will tell them that the user's valid but the password's wrong. We do not want it to do that. Instead, we want it just to say that everything's wrong. We don't want it to tell them that, yeah, hey, you actually got the user's correct, so now you can brute force attack your way in by trying to guess the password. Instead, it doesn't tell them if anything's right or wrong. So prevent user registering admin username if it doesn't exist. Yeah, that one you want, because remember when you first create a WordPress, it by default tries to make the administrative user admin, and you definitely want to change that immediately after the WordPress has been created to something else. Do not leave it as admin or leave password as password. And then preventing the discovery of usernames through author scans. Yeah, this is pretty interesting too. When you have different authors writing blog posts on your site, they can be discovered using that, and this is gonna prevent that. So the rest of this stuff is good. You want to leave it, and all of this should have you set up. All we did was change this, but we haven't saved it yet. So we're going to go ahead and bring that down. Our advanced firewall options, let's take a quick look through this. So the first one is delaying IP and country blocking to WordPress plugins have loaded. We're going to leave that one unchecked. Whitelisted IP addresses that bypass all rules. This is if you have an IP like your own, for example, and you can bypass all the rules set in the WordPress. And these are whitelisted services checking your site. Uptime Robot's a pretty great one. I've used that for a while. It actually just checks the uptime status of your website. Immediately block IPs that access any of the following URLs. That's if you're really protecting something. And ignored IP addresses for WordFence web application. I don't think we're going to fill any of this in right now. This stuff's it's like much more advanced features, like it says in its title. It's pretty advanced. So none of this stuff we're really going to change. I'm just kind of showing you what it is. All this stuff you can leave. All that's okay. I don't think we really needed to change anything in there. So rate limiting. Rate limiting is for how many times somebody's requesting your website, because this is kind of what DDoS attacking is. DDoS attacking is when your website is attacked with so many requests that it actually slugs down and can't respond. Is one simple way to word it. So like Google's web crawlers, these are the Google bots that get your site indexed and update its information. Verified Google crawlers will not be rate limited. That's what it's set to by default. Anyone claiming to be Google will not be rate limited. That's interesting because a bot can fraudulently say it's Google or treat Google like any other crawler. We're just going to leave it as verified crawlers will not be rate limited. So if anyone's request exceeds unlimited, then throttle it. We can actually set this to how many requests per minute they're making. So say this person is making 960 requests per minute. Throttle it down. The system will throttle that request to make sure that it still has bandwidth for other users. So we're just going to set that to, let's just say 1920. If a crawler's page view exceeds same thing, then we're going to throttle it. If a crawler's page is 404s. Now, that's another thing that I think we already took care of, right? In our plugins, we did a 404 to homepage, so I think that's not really going to matter in this case. As you can see right here, we're redirecting all 404s to the homepage. So that's really not going to matter in this case, which was another security upgrade, by the way. But we just ended up doing it in an earlier video. So if a crawler's 404 exceeds that, I'm just giving them all a cap versus unlimited. You can actually set it to whatever you want. If a human's views exceed 1920, I don't think a human's will, but if it does, throttle it, throttle it, throttle it. How long is an IP address blocked when it breaks the rule? Let's just say 30 minutes. So that's a basic setup for limiting the rate of people accessing the site and the brute force protection. Let's go ahead and save that. This video, by the way, might be slightly longer than 10 minutes due to the nature of it kind of being an advanced topic that I'm trying to cover pretty quickly. So that's pretty much it for the brute force for your logins and most of the other stuff you need set by default. And let's see, back in your login security, I think this is the only other part I really wanted to talk about. You can actually set up two-factor authentication, which is pretty cool for your phone. And in an app and all that, and you can set this up if you want. I've never actually done this for any sites I've had. I've never set up two-factor, but you can absolutely do that here if you think it makes sense to what you're doing. And then another thing is the scanning capability. You can actually set up scans on your site, and I think that you can actually set them to run on a, let's see, you can get them to run on a timer where every so often it scans your site, and WordFence is going to notify you when you come into your site that it wants you to scan every now and then. So that's pretty cool. It just scans all your files and looks for any malware issues or anything like that. This is your live traffic. It's showing you anybody who's currently on your site and what their IP address is, where they're coming from. And that's if you want to block anybody or if anything's hitting your site real time, you can block it right here. And that's also what the firewall is about as well, is you're able to block any IPs or anything that looks suspicious in your site, and you can get rid of it. So I think that's under blocking rules. Yeah. So you'll be able to see anything that was blocked and why it was blocked. And then you can make permanent or you can unblock them. So if somebody was coming in and they were breaking your rules that we just set, which is your limit rate, which is people requesting your pages too fast, or your login rate, then you can actually block it or unblock it. If it's somebody that, like say you're testing or something like that, you can actually unblock it or make it permanent here, permaban them, don't ever let them back in. So for a basic WordFence setup, for basic security, it works pretty good right out of the box. And then we went ahead and just configured some of the basics to protect our login screen, and we did some basics to protect our site from being DDoS attacked too hard, which I think we're going to double this up with WordFence anyway. I mean, not WordFence. We're going to double this up with Cloudflare anyway. So it's actually going to double that. And the person will never even get to WordFence. They'll get stopped by Cloudflare first. But that's the basics for setting up WordFence. And this is pretty basic. There are actually a lot of options inside WordFence that you could advance on. I just showed you how to get it really basically set up. I mean, look, they have all these basic firewall options. Enabling protecting, like you can put it in learning mode or you can disable it 100% right here. We just have it enabled in protecting, advanced, brute force, rate limit, whitelisted URLs, country blocking, scan scheduling. This is under all options. You can remember what I was talking about, scheduling for scans. You can let WordFence choose when to do it, or you can actually, it's a premium feature now, I guess, to manually schedule. But yeah, WordFence will scan on its own, all kinds of stuff. And it's a pretty great plugin for somebody who's just trying to make sure their site has basic protection, and it's pretty simple to set up. So I'm pretty sure that's going to wrap us out for 13. This was like I keep saying and reiterating, this course is really simplified, broken down information. Future courses are going to be much more advanced when it comes to actually building full websites and like advanced security and advanced coding and all kinds of features like that. But in this, I just wanted to help somebody get from where they don't know anything about WordPress to a basic site that has security, that's on a server, and they know how to do the basic dashboard of WordPress and how to make changes and all that. So in the next couple tutorials, what we might end up doing is we might end up actually building a little bit on the site and trying to get the front end looking a little better so that we can migrate it to a server, and then I can show you some of the more advanced stuff when it comes to actually setting up your site, getting a real server going, and migrating things over, which is really what we're building up to anyway, and then kind of seeing how that all works and creating emails and doing our Cloudflare and all that. So in the next videos, I think, like I said, we're just going to focus on building a little bit, actually making our site look decent, and then probably creating a functional contact form. So I look forward to seeing you guys in part 14. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like, it'll help a lot, and leave me a comment if everything's helpful, if I missed anything, or if you have any recommendations, or if you have anything specifically that you want to see. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you guys in part 14.